Yo, 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 happy Friday. What's going on, guys? I am Justin Moore, founder of Creator Wizard, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream brand sponsorships. If you want to get a dream brand sponsorship, drop it in the chat. For those of you guys who don't know me, we might have some new viewers here today because I am so excited to be joined by Brianne Fleming, who runs hashtag Pop Chat, a weekly discussion on Twitter that shares highlights that highlights marketing lessons from trending topics in music, movies, sports, fashion, TV, and more. And we're going to be talking all about why influencers are changing advertising. So welcome, Brianne. Come on in here. So stoked to have you here.
Hello, happy Friday. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I typically run Pop Chat Fridays at 1 o'clock also, so we had to just figure out how we could team up and do this. So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
glad we're making it happen.
Yeah, so give us a quick little background on like why you started Pop Chat. Like, what's the origin story?
Yeah, so I would say that Twitter has kind of been my pandemic project. Like, I didn't really use it prior to the pandemic, but like a lot of us, I was looking for a lot of connection and I was joining Twitter chats, and I love them all. I love the ones that are out there, but I felt like they were a little bit more academic than what I necessarily wanted to discuss on Twitter. I wanted to learn, but I also wanted to have a little bit more fun and apply those marketing learnings to things that I already enjoy, things in music, movies, sports, everything you just mentioned. So, kind of selfishly, I created the Twitter chat that I wanted to participate in because I was eager to talk about these pop culture topics, and I didn't know if anyone else would share that desire. But I launched it 2 years ago. Only 4 people joined during the first chat, and now it's grown into happy hours and merch, and it's just a really tight knit community.
So the way in which people join, and again, this is happening right now. So if you go to
Yeah.
Brianne's Twitter profile, the cool thing is that she's going to be scheduling out some of the questions that we're talking about here. But so if someone wanted to join a Pop Chat, you just kind of follow the hashtag Pop Chat, or how does it work?
Yeah, you can follow the hashtag or just jump on my profile and you'll see all of my tweets. But yeah, we kind of start off just introducing each other. There's Dakota. He's one of the 4 people who joined originally on that first day when I launched it. And since I'm a little preoccupied here right now, he's kind of running the chat and engaging with people so we can chat here.
Well,
So it's been really special.
what I love about that story is like that's how everything starts. It's like there's like 2 people there, and
Yeah.
okay, this is awesome. We're small group, but it's like slowly grows over time. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's such a great anecdote for creators in general, especially in the beginning. Like it feels like there's no progress being made. You're just
Yeah.
doing your thing for your little community, and like slowly but surely you make the right connection. Was there ever like an inflection point where you had maybe like a Twitter influencer or something like participate and like retweeted or something? Like, was there ever a moment like that for you, or has it been a slow burn?
It's been pretty slow actually, but I would say the main reason that it's grown into what it's become, or one of the main reasons, is that I got the idea for it and I launched it in the same day. So I didn't overthink it. I didn't talk myself out of it. I was like, I'm not doing anything today. Let me just see if I could put this out there. And I committed and said, okay, this is now every Friday at 1 o'clock. And I had to show up then. I put it out into the world. So it's something that I kind of promised that I would be consistent with. And I feel like there are other creative projects I do where I kind of fall off, but this has grown so much because I've cemented it Fridays at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and so powerful just showing up, right? Like I feel like
Hmm.
if you do something consistently over and over, people truly they appreciate that, and
Yeah.
they some people, like you said, show up every single week, and it's part of
Hmm.
their schedule. And
Yeah.
yeah, so why don't with that, let's dive into the theme of today,
Yeah.
because we have a really fun topic today, which is why influencers are changing advertising. So for
Mhm.
the icebreaker, we thought it would be fun for people in the chat and on Twitter, no, wherever you're watching, to drop it in the chat. What is your favorite type of content to create? Okay, whether that is, by the way, the term creator it feels like it's exploding lately, right? It's not just a
Yeah.
social media influencer. It's like a newsletter author or a Twitter influencer, or, maybe you're a B2B influencer. You have influence and expertise in this little corner of your, professional market or whatever. So let us know in the chat. We've got Reginald Powell in the chat saying Brianne is making moves. I'm here for all of this.
Reggie has been great. He has been one of my cheerleaders, and he's also I've started doing Twitter Spaces and experimenting with that. And he was kind of one of those day ones also, where I was talking to an empty room and he would get up there on the mic and, make me feel a little less alone in the beginning. So I'm super thankful for him.
So what is your favorite type of content to create, Brianne?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is predictable, and I don't know if it really counts, but it's truly tweets. Like, I love the creative challenge of those constraints. And for me, I use Twitter kind of as a think tank where I will just kind of riff things off and just let them fly. And then I'll notice that that's where I'll get inspiration to expand on it later in a blog post, in a podcast episode, or in my newsletter. So it's kind of where all of my ideas start. And it's also where I get to interact with other people, and they'll ask questions or share their own insight or input that will keep those ideas going so I can make that podcast or bigger piece of content even better. So yeah, I got to go with Twitter on this one. What about you?
It's funny because just on that point, like, Twitter is by far my favorite platform.
Yeah.
And yet most of our sponsorships are not on Twitter. Right. And so it's like,
Mm.
it's interesting because, we were actually talking about this and DMing about sponsorship strategy and stuff like that, because, a lot of brands still, I feel like, still look at, Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever as like the traditional platforms that you would sponsor people on. And yet I still look at Twitter as kind of like the water cooler where everyone hangs out and like actually talks about the real stuff. And so I've never really quite understood. I think there are a lot of brands who get it, but I think, there's a lot of brands who are just really missing a big opportunity, I think, with, not really leveraging Twitter. Twitter in the early days, you remember, like, there were those like Twitter parties and Twitter chats like 15 years or 10 years ago, or whatever, when it started.
Yeah.
But then it was just like somehow it moved away from that. I don't know. Like, what has been your experience like trying to work with brand partners and stuff like that on Twitter?
Yeah, well, I try to let them see exactly what you just said, that Twitter, in my opinion, prioritizes conversations and two-way conversation more than any other platform. And the way that one tweet can get seen by so many people just because one person replies, it feels so much more two-way and engaging than just maybe a typical video that you post, and maybe people will converse in the comments on other platforms, but not to the extent of so much back and forth like we see on Twitter, and just like the micro threads that can happen within the comments. So yeah, when I work with brands, I try to illustrate that, look, I'm not just going to be getting you impressions, I'm going to be getting you conversation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's such a powerful way to frame it, because so many
Mhm.
creators, when they do, go and approach brands and have these conversations, it's always very like me focused, like, oh, me. This is all about me.
Yeah.
Like, look at me, look at all the amazing things I can do. But when you frame it from a perspective like that, it can be super powerful. So yeah, from my perspective, that my favorite type of content to create is tweet threads. I mean,
Yes.
the problem is, it's funny because like because I love Twitter and because I spend so much time on there, it's hard though, because it's like, it's such a time suck. I feel like sometimes I could just get like, oh man, I get like spend so much time looking at other people's threads and
But
all this
it's
stuff
not
there.
mindless, I feel
That's
like
true. That's
on
true.
Instagram, I get in kind of these mindless scrolling sessions, but I feel like on TikTok, you can come across a great thread that adds value, like the ones that you put out there, and you actually walk away learning something.
That
So
is
yeah,
true. Okay. All right. You've made me feel
well, keep it up.
you've made me feel less guilty about that.
Yeah.
So the first question I think that's fun to kind of talk about is, what does it mean for someone to truly have influence? Where do you land on this?
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I know in the marketing world, we think of an influencer as someone that has lots and lots of followers, but to have influence, that happens in our day to day, just talking to one person. I think having influence means that someone trusts you enough to take action based on what you said or what you told them. That's how I
Hmm.
would concisely define it.
Yeah, and I feel like the word influencer, the term, has kind of, I don't know, pervaded the cultural zeitgeist, that like people get it. Like, you can make money as a creator, you can be as an influencer. You're scrolling your Instagram feed, oh, paid partnership with X brand. Like, people get it,
Yeah.
and yet in like our day-to-day life, like, you know, how much more powerful is it to get a recommendation from a friend or people that whose judgment you trust than
Yeah.
some random celebrity? We'll talk about celebrities, but like, you know,
Yes.
it just, it really truly is kind of a, we're talking, the theme is like, you know, how advertising is changing in so many
Mhm.
ways. And I love that definition, because I think that, you know, in the influencer space, in the influencer world, like, a lot of times brands, or a lot of time people will like group people into these categories, or you're like a nano influencer, you have less than
Mhm.
5,000 followers, or you're like a micro influencer, or like
Yeah.
mid-tier influencer, right? And it's funny because you know, I, for my influencer agency, like this is the language that brands use. Like, we want to do a
Yeah.
micro influencer campaign, like specifically, that's the strategy. And
Mhm.
so like, it's very much informed by what the brand is trying to accomplish, and like, and you know, brands will think, okay, is this going to be a conversion focused campaign? Are we actually trying to drive sales or some sort of action or whatever? Or is it going to be, it's a product launch, brand awareness, let's go get a mega influencer or whatever, right? So
Right.
like, how, like for someone to truly have influence, I think that definition is very different to a lot of people, which makes it, I think, this space a little confusing sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and it's evolving so much.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So that's why I enjoy following you and keeping up with what you're noticing on your channels and working with influencers all the time, because yeah, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we also got Harris hyping you up in the chat here, saying
Hey, Harris.
Brianne crushes it.
Harris is one of those in real life friends that I met, and he told me that he is a Twitter person, and I was like, "Oh my god, like you're my people." So I'm
You're
so
like,
happy that
someone.
someone
Um,
gets it.
I wanted to pull up some of the we got some great responses to some of the
Yeah.
icebreakers here, and we got Jared saying gifts. Is it gifts or
Oh,
gifs? I
I
think it's
say
gifts. I'd
gifts.
say gif
Yeah.
too, but the creator of the gif said gif, so I don't know how to feel about
Yeah, he
that.
just died this
I
week.
know. I saw that.
Oh,
So sad.
poor
So
guy. Yeah.
sad.
Well,
Poor
thank you
guy.
for his impact.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you for the impact.
True
Um,
trailblazer.
Olivia says, I love doing IG stories off. I should, let me zoom this up a little bit so we can see it. It'll be easier to
Yeah.
see.
And we've got
Is that,
Reggie here.
better?
Mhm. Yeah, much better.
I love doing IG stories off the cuff for me. For clients, I like doing educational carousel posts on EG.
Ooh.
I like the difference there of differentiating between the content you're creating for clients versus yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And
Um,
now I know Sprout Social lets you schedule carousels on IG, so a
oh,
lot of social
really?
media managers are rejoicing. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, 5 years later, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Reggie said, I like to write longer form social posts on sites like LinkedIn, write my newsletter on Substack. I find these formats allow me to dive into a topic without exhausting myself with a 10,000 word magnum opus.
Yeah, I know Reggie just launched his newsletter this week, so go check him out. Yeah.
Congratulations. What's the newsletter topic? Do you know?
Reggie, let us know. I know
Let us know in the chat.
his recent one was about freelancers and why you shouldn't be so quick to quit your job necessarily. He had some things
Mm,
that you should consider before taking that leap.
mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
helpful information.
Absolutely. Cool. So, all right, let's shift on to question number 2, which was,
Yeah.
why should brands work with creators or influencers? So you,
Yeah.
like, you have some experience in this space. Like, so actually, have you worked with a lot of influencers and creators on the brand side or on the marketing side in the past?
Not really. Like I worked with still people that I would consider to be mainstream celebrities. Like
Mm,
I did some brand management for Orange Theory, and we worked with Erin Andrews, who is very mainstream. And we did work with some influencers for events where we would just kind of invite them and have them, share content in the moment, but not really structured brand deals with influencers.
mm-hmm.
So
Um, Yeah. Oh, and Reginald was saying in the chat, it's about being a freelancer and how to become a relentless self advocate. Yes,
ooh,
everyone needs that. Everyone
for
needs
sure.
that. And we got Hannity in the chat. Hannity saying, "Hey, Justin and Brianne, and hope everyone's all as well." Hey, Hannity, thanks for tuning
Yes.
in.
Hello.
And yeah, I mean, I think that people like to hate on influencers. I've found, like, oh, like, you're an influencer, really? Like, seriously,
Yeah.
attention grabbing, all this stuff, right? But I don't know. The truth is that it really does work, and there's a reason that marketers are going to spend almost $15 billion on the tactic this year.
Yeah.
And I think that What I think is that I think that the exact tactics change. So like obviously organic reach on Instagram sucks now or has for the last like
Yeah,
year or
another
two.
reason to love Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly too. Exactly. But like I just always go back to like just think about your own behavior. You know,
Mhm.
what type of content is more thumb stopping? Is it
Yeah.
an ad from the toothpaste brands page where they're like it's like this beautiful ad that they spent $300,000 to shoot with full crew, or is it the
Mhm.
influencer brushing their teeth? Like
Yeah.
which one are you going to stop on? Like clearly, I think there's a time and a place for different types of assets. Maybe you're on broadcast TV is different. Um, but
Yeah.
I think creators really do understand how to reach very niche audiences and kind of keep what keeps them up at night, right?
Yeah, and I think it gets your product out of your corporate ivory towers, and it helps your audience envision the product in their actual life because they can relate to these influencers on a specific level. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend named Mindy. I'm not a parent, but Mindy is a parent who's juggling, like, she's always at her kids' volleyball tournaments and taking them to this event and that event. And she made some great UGC content for this sneaker brand where she was showing how they were so comfortable for her walking 3 miles around like a volleyball tournament and like this expo that she was at all day. And it's like, if you're a mother as well, you can probably relate to that versus just seeing the sneakers, on a
Mm-hmm.
pretty backdrop, so it,
Right.
it helps us see it in our own lives.
Right. I wanted to pull up some questions for some answers from what does it mean for someone to truly have influence? Got some
Yeah.
great ones so far. Kathy Ann says to be taken seriously. Your opinion
Mm,
and view matters and is trusted by the people you interact with,
very powerful.
which is powerful. Masuma says someone who truly has influence can get people interested in another brand or whatever interest they're sharing. It's never about someone pushing people to buy for me, though. Influence is
Mm,
always how much people trust you, in my opinion. Love
yeah.
that. You want to read some of these, Brianne, so I'm not the only one?
Sure. Yeah. Sam says everyone is an influencer. I believe that too. The difference is magnitude. Yeah, absolutely. We
Mhm,
have influence in our day to day. Just leaving a review on Yelp, like you're potentially influencing someone.
mhm,
So, yeah. Camber says, depending on the context, I think it means that they are persuasive and can win over others, whether that's through purchases, decision making, budgeting, whatever. The person can sway you in some way. Hmm.
mhm. I like that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Aaron
Absolutely.
Aaron said here, I like this one about like, do they have an engaged audience? I think that like a lot of brands still conflate a large following with
Hmm.
influence. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. In the year of 2022, Brianne, brands are still looking at like, oh, this person has 100,000 followers. Like that's the metric. That's the only metric that matters.
Yeah.
It's baffling to me. Like you can hold up two influencers, one that has 12,000 followers and one that has 100, they can get the same levels of engagement, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of engagement, man, the pop chat's popping off on your account here. We got like
Yes,
20 20
it is.
20 responses or something already within
Look at
2
that.
seconds of you posting.
I'm so lucky. Like I get to learn from all these incredibly smart marketers through their experiences and perspectives this way. So like I said, I started it for selfish reasons and it's still pretty selfish that I get to learn from all these awesome people.
Yeah, no, actually I did want to pull one back up here because
Yeah.
she had a great gif. And Jessica
Ah.
said, it's all about inspiration. It
Mm.
doesn't always have to be a capitalistic gain. It can be about sharing knowledge or even inspiring confidence.
See, we
Love.
get deep on pop chat.
Boom. Look at this. This is like a poetry slam right here. Like this
Yes.
is this is getting legit. I love that,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
oftentimes think of influence as being that's like, oh, you're selling something. But a lot of
Hmm.
times it's like, no, you can actually what maybe it's social justice, maybe it's bringing about some change in your community, in your country, whatever. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that angle on it, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I want to pull up here. Mousy Lee says, I see that on YouTube about engagement. Smaller channels often get way more views per video than huge channels that just have subs from old viral videos.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
never
Mm-hmm.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely true.
Um, I want you to field this one from Harris, Brianne. What is the best way to
Yeah.
grow followers on Twitter?
Oh, Harris, we've got to meet offline and do like a full Twitter, love day, and I'll share everything I've learned along the way. But the short answer, at least for me, is I know it sounds cheesy, but it's just truly being yourself and being authentic. Like I mentioned before, I noticed all of these other Twitter chats when I started it were, kind of academic, talking just about social media. But I'm like, I like boy bands. I like pop culture. I want to talk about music. So I'm going to put this out there and hope that other people like it. And if not, that's okay. But I know I'm going to be attracting the right people just by being myself. So yeah, I write about marketing lessons inspired by the Spice Girls and like random things. And I'm like, 3 years ago, that wasn't who I was. I was kind of sharing marketing insights in like this buttoned up, like overly polished format. I'm like, this isn't even my own voice. So when you find your own voice and you kind of let your hair down a little bit, you're going to be happier, and that's going to help you consistently create more and just get more joy out of Twitter, and then the followers will come. But I could go on about that forever, so I hope that's that's helpful.
That's a
30
gem.
seconds or so.
Love all the gems you're dropping. And let's pull up some answers to Q2 here. Why should
Yeah,
brands work with creators or influencers? Well, look at how we're multitasking here. Isn't this
we've got tabs.
this
We're
is flawless.
streaming.
Drop some like hashtag flawless in the chat if you
Yes.
think this is if you think we're doing well here, because we were talking offline, like, how's this gonna go? It's gonna be kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, we got some great answers here. So Canberra says, because consumers trust people, it's like reviews
Yeah.
we don't have to hunt down. I have
Yeah.
bought more things on TikTok because of a person than I have ever through ads. I literally just bought a new under eye concealer because of someone on my FYP. Brianne, tell me how you feel about TikTok and like, oh, TikTok made me buy it. That whole trend. Like,
Oh,
what are
I
your thoughts on that?
know. I'm at a point with TikTok that it's so good that I have to just tell myself not to open it unless I've reserved like 2 hours of my time that I know I'll never get back. But yeah, it's absolutely true. What I've loved about TikTok and what it's done for influencers and marketing is that I think people are incorporating humor a lot more, which is really refreshing to see. So you could be watching an ad, but it never feels like an ad. And just the way too creators are doing like their Target hauls and sharing products, but in a very concise way. Gosh, it's just probably a money pit now. It's just people spending everything because of TikTok.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, I think we've definitely, that's one of the reasons why you're seeing the differences in engagement on Instagram is
Yeah.
because of people spending a lot of time on TikTok. Like even my wife and even me, like, it's just like the behavior of like swiping your feed on Instagram, which I think a lot of people
Yeah.
just have shifted that behavior to TikTok. I wanted to pull up a few more answers here to
Sure.
the second question. You want to read some
Mhm.
of these ones? I thought this one from Masuma was good.
Yeah, Masuma always drops gems. She says, here's why. It gives them access to their highly defined audiences, which equals brand awareness, and they can get their target buyers' trust as the creator talks about and recommends them who the audience already trust. Yeah, I mean, we see trust. That I think that's the key word with all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one other one that I wanted to highlight. Where was it? I missed it.
They're on fire today.
I know, like,
I
look at
thought they'd
this.
be a little quiet because I'm kind of abandoning them, but yeah, I love it. And I hope Dakota, if you're watching this too, shout out to you for replying to these.
Yeah, and I think I like what Tessa said here is that people trust other people, not brands. If you're brand partners with a creator or influencer with an engaged following, that following will be more likely to be interested in your product or service. I think not enough people talk about this piece, or actually not enough like influencers think about this component, which is that you putting your stamp of approval as a creator or influencer on this brand and saying, hey, I love this brand, you should go patronize them as well. Like, that's a very powerful thing. And I think a lot of creators give that up too easily for a free product. The brands feel like, hey, we'll give you a free bag of potato chips. And the influencer's
Yeah.
like, sweet, right? And then they have like 50,000 followers. And it's just like you have a lot more. You have spent countless days and nights and months and years building up this engaged, intimate connection with your following. And you're just you're gonna like hand over the keys to that kingdom to some brand for a bag of potato chips. I'm being facetious, but
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think to an extent, like no matter how big your account is, like you kind of have to take responsibility for what you're encouraging people to buy or do or what you're promoting. You want that to be genuine and sincere. So yeah, to have your stamp of approval, that has a lot of weight, and it's important for creators to really vet and promote brands that they're proud of.
By the way, Dakota's saying my Twitter's chaos right now. but
He's the best. You're doing great,
so
Dakota.
fun. Yes, Dakota, thanks for taking one for the team and letting me borrow Brianne for the day or for the hour. But this is fun. I love doing stuff like this where it's just like we're doing it live. Let's do this.
Yes, organized chaos. Yes.
Okay, so let's dive into question number 3. Okay, and question number 3 is, what is the most difficult part of brand creator partnerships? So
Yeah.
let's ask you, so in some of those more traditional celebrity type partnerships that you've done in the past, like what has been difficult about some of those for your team?
Oh gosh. I mean, do we want to talk about ego?
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, some of that can kind of get in the way, but I think no matter if it's a traditional celebrity or an influencer, I think it's finding that common ground for both where it feels authentic to the creator or to the celebrity. And again, kind of like what we've been discussing, like it just flows naturally in their existing lives. So with Erin Andrews, she was already an Orange Theory member, actually, when we decided to work with her. So it was authentic, and that's actually what sparked the idea. So yeah, look for influencers that are already using your product, right? Is a
Hmm.
pitch always a cold pitch? Like I think we all kind of start off as fans of the brands anyway.
I think that is, and there's software programs that can help you identify creators and people with authentic affinity for your brand, right? Social listening
Mm,
software. I
hmm.
just think that like there's a lot that brands can do to try to identify. It's so much easier to convince a creator or hire a creator who's already familiar with your brand, already familiar with the product, than to have to do this whole, you know, song and dance about why you should work with them and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I always think about the creative latitude aspect because, there are like a lot of brands get it. Like it's like,
Hmm.
you understand your audience, you understand what'll work and what won't work. We're letting you, kind of within, obviously you want to make sure that it's in alignment with what the brand is trying to accomplish, but
Yeah.
giving them the creative latitude to maybe something the brand wouldn't normally think would be like, oh, I don't know,
Hmm.
we would never make a spot like that. But then you're like, no, trust me, like they're gonna love this, right?
Yeah.
That's always like such a prized thing when you can find a brand that understands that and gets that.
Lets you do
And
that.
then
Yeah.
the other thing too is that at least for me, given that I like, I educate creators. That's like my lane, is like try to teach them to be more business savvy and stuff like that. I think that not enough creators believe that it's their job to educate brands and actually
Mm,
give them feedback and say, hey, like that's a bad idea. Like we should not do that. Like
yeah.
for this reason, like because creators
Hmm.
there's this power dynamic at play that they feel like they can't say anything, or the brand will get mad, they'll pull the deal, they'll never want to work with
Yeah.
them again. And like in my experience, like most brands are eager for polite, constructive feedback around how they can improve this campaign or their social presence and things like that too. So I don't know. I'm always encouraging creators, like, no, like they want to hear from you. Like, don't be shy
Yeah.
about sharing your opinion.
Yeah, that's such a great insight. Yeah, we kind of have to stand up for what we think would work the best. I mean, that you
Hmm.
are the creator, you're creative as well, and I think that power dynamic, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's great advice.
Yeah, and I want to pull in some answers from Pop Chat here. We got Jack Appleby in the chat. Jack
Hey.
Jack recently stitched one of my TikToks. I was so honored. Jack, he's
Oh,
killing it on TikTok these days. I was like, man, thank you for doing that, Jack. Um,
wow.
Jack said, brands not letting creators do their thing, just like what we were talking about, right?
Yep, exactly. Dakota.
Dakota said, ugh, it's the worst. It never works out well. Gotta have the trust.
Mm-hmm. There's that
Um,
word.
Yeah, exactly. And Masuma said, on the brand side, having all your objectives and goals from the partnership clearly defined and well documented. On the creator side, managing all the partnerships in such a way that no client gets neglected and you can retain a long-term partnership.
Oh,
Exactly. Right?
I like that. Yeah, I think that's a great reminder because, it's the same thing with marketing anything. Like you think you want to go out and find this shiny new object, a new customer to bring in, but if you do well for your existing customers and the existing partners that you're working with, like see if you can work with them long term. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go get those shiny new brands all the time.
100%. And I love this thing that Azad said, which is vetting the creators. Traditionally, you'd go through a talent agency to vet the talent, but social media creators are often their own agents and managers, right? Which means that
Hmm.
brands need to do some digging to ensure that this person won't reflect their brand negatively. That this is a fundamentally a big shift between and we will talk about shortly about celebrities and influencers, that the
Yeah.
traditional celebrity has everything was through their talent agents. You have one person, everything flows through them, but creators have opportunities coming to them from a zillion different angles.
Yeah.
Like an agency, brands directly, brand deal platforms, like all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, it can be very difficult for a brand to like really be able to vet properly, like, hey, did this person tweet something 4 years ago that's going to make us that we're going to get some blowback on this,
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed recently, which has been fascinating to me, is that a lot of corporations are having an in-house resource that is just their influencer liaison. And they are that person that's vetting those creators and making sure that it's a great fit. And I think a lot more brands, I think we're going to see them investing in that type of team member. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, 5 years ago, the title influencer marketing manager did not exist.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Like, it was
wild.
not, and it's so much easier to pitch brands now because it's like you just go on LinkedIn and be like, "Oh, who's the influencer manager?"
Yeah.
Right? Because
We
before
appreciate it.
and it's not every brand has that, but like a lot, even brands who outsource the tactic to their agency pretty much usually have someone running point on the strategy side, at least at the brand, right?
Yeah.
So let's actually dive right into question number 4, which is that what is the
Okay.
difference between celebrities and influencers in your mind?
Ooh. Well, I know kind of the larger theme of this chat today is how influencers are changing advertising, and I think that a celebrity and an influencer, the big difference is that an influencer becomes a celebrity when they transition into that traditional advertising type of space. So, for instance, I mean, Charlie D'Amelio, I mean, obviously huge on TikTok, but I feel like she became a celebrity and really mainstream when we started seeing her on TV. Very traditional, but doing her Super Bowl ad and appearing on Jimmy Fallon and kind of getting into that mainstream mass media. That's how I would draw that distinction.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting because maybe 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, um, you really did have to have like 50 million followers, 20 million followers or whatever to be able to get to that height, like beyond the shows and all that stuff too. And while that still is the case, there is a lot of instances of digital influencers who have a, I don't know, relatively modest following by comparison to the 20 million. No, maybe it's 500,000 or maybe it's
Yeah.
700,000 or whatever, even lower sometimes, who are having these breakout traditional celebrity type moments or opportunities that
Hmm.
uh, perhaps were not available in the past. And I think that is an acknowledgement from the traditional uh the powers that be, the brands or the traditional, TV shows and all this stuff, where like acknowledging that, yeah, like having a digital influencer as part of their thing, as part of their launch, or as
Hmm.
part of their reality TV show, or part of their thing, like that can have a big impact on the success
Yeah.
of the thing, right?
Hmm.
Which is very interesting. And I think for me, like you think about, I think actually someone in was mentioning this on the pop chat, is that I think it's all about audience intimacy and the connection. Like
Hmm.
people feel a lot of times, like even my wife and I, we've been on YouTube for over 10 years. And like people, whenever we meet them, we'll do a meetup or something. People like will say like, I feel like I've watched your kids grow up, or I feel like I know you. I feel
Oh,
like you're my
yeah.
best friend. I feel like, it's like, I feel like I watch your videos every day or what, it's like and yet you don't hear that or think that really about celebrities.
Hmm.
It's like, I think a lot of it is like maybe there's not an expectation of like a celebrity will reply to you on Instagram or on a
Yeah.
social post maybe or something.
Yeah. And it's interesting for me. I mean, I'm, right smack dab in the middle. I mean, I'm a true millennial. So I kind of grew up, and so did you, I'm sure, with like more of those traditional celebrities. And, Britney Spears is my girl. Like that's who influenced me. So it's such an interesting shift because I actually posed a question to my students the other day to ask who are some of their favorite celebrities. And they all mentioned influencers that I'd never heard of. And they were famous only primarily from social media. And that was just so wild to me and such an interesting reminder of how things are shifting. even just from our generation, the generation before it.
100%. And I mean, like, if that's any indication of what it's going to be like,
Yeah.
for the next generation, I mean, I think that's pretty profound, right? Let's pull in some
Mhm.
answers from the pop chat.
Yeah.
And Christine said, celebrities are famous. Influencers don't have to be. In fact, micro influencers who are only famous to a small but devoted following can be some of the strongest influencers out there because they've got so much trust from those relationships.
Mhm.
What do we think? Do we
Yeah.
got some snaps in there in the chat?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah. It again has that common word, trust. But yeah, I love Christine's point that even on the micro level, you could still have such a great influence.
Alexa says, insane the amount of overlap here now, right? Like we're talking about, but influencers can act more independently than a celebrity. Having more
Ah.
mass notoriety crosses an influencer into celebrity status.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and Jelly says, I'd say size. Celebrities are
Yeah.
influencers, but influencers don't have to be celebrities. You don't have to have a 10,000 audience. You want to read some of
So
these?
well said. Let's see what Colin has to say. Celebrities have talent recognized by something outside of social
Mm.
media. Influencers may or may not have talent, but are really good at getting attention. Yeah,
Mm.
and that's something you do. You help so many
Mm.
people get attention on their talents and what they're great at.
Oh, interesting. I like that
Awesome.
one.
Miriam, oh man, this is tough. I wonder if it is truly about the channel you start in or scale or how much folks are willing to invest in you. There are TikTok stars who have moved over to movies. Does that make them a celebrity? That's kind of like what
Mm.
I was saying. I think when they
Mhm.
cross into that traditional sphere, yeah, that's when they've achieved celebrity.
You know
But
what's funny? Like, I was actually talking to my wife about this recently. I was saying, like, I think it would be terrible to be a celebrity but not rich. Like,
yeah.
because there's a lot of people who have achieved some celebrity status. Remember, it's like a
Hmm.
reality show or something, and like everyone knows them, but like they're not like making millions of dollars on a movie or like all this stuff. And so like they don't have bodyguards, they don't like live this life. And yet
Uh,
everywhere you go, people know you want to take pictures with you. I just think that would suck. Like
yeah.
honestly, I would much rather be like anonymous and like do really well and just like not be able to live a normal life. But like, I don't know. I was just funny. I was just like thinking about that. I don't know.
You've got to help them monetize,
Right.
get some brand deals or something. you know, some brand will take them on. Well, it depends on who it is with the way everyone's getting canceled
Yeah.
these days. But
Yes, that's true. That's true. But there is something to be said about that though, that like I don't know, people don't think about that. Like you're not a lot of times, like even if you have achieved some level of celebrity, it's not like you're gonna have
yeah,
that the income to go along with it forever for your whole
yeah,
life, for your whole career, you know?
hmm,
I don't know. I think that's I don't know. It's just kind of a weird
yeah,
niche topic, but
yeah.
it is
Very
something that
interesting.
influencers, like quote unquote influencers need to think about, right?
Yeah.
Um, let's motor along here to question number 5, which is
Hmm.
how are influencers changing traditional advertising culture, which is kind of the theme of today's talk. What do you think about that one, Brianne?
Yeah. I mean, with traditional advertising and media buying, we were buying placement, but now, or like choosing placement, where to place your ads, but now we're choosing people. For me, that's the big distinction. Is traditional was all about just placement, like where to place your ads, but with working with influencers, it's more about who is the right person versus what is the right publication or place to advertise.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, we got Nick Nimmin in the chat here. Oh my God, Nick
Woo!
is a YouTube celebrity, Brianne.
Oh, I am
He
honored.
seriously, I feel honored for you to be here. Nick said even on YouTube, a lot of large creators are broke because they didn't set things up properly.
Sounds like an idea for a video. I don't know.
Mm, that does
Or a
sound like a thing.
documentary.
Yeah, I
Something.
mean, it's true. Like I always talk about that. That my wife and I, like if I look at our influence, I guess our quote unquote influence over the last 10 years, the height of our influence was maybe 7 years ago or 6 years ago when we were getting, like in the family space, which is where we make a lot of content. It's very much driven by life milestones, getting pregnant, having
Yeah.
the new baby and moving, getting a new house and like all these life milestones, right? And like
Yeah.
all of those milestones are over. We've gotten married, we've had the babies, we're
Oh,
not planning any more babies, we're not moving. It's like our life is so boring now, right? And so it's just like the viewership and all that stuff. And yet like we made the most money we've ever made last year. So it's just like we're
Wow.
probably at the lowest, but because
Hmm.
of this thing that Nick is talking about, right? Is we very much have intentionally tried to be like, okay, like let's set ourselves up for the next 5 years, 6
Hmm.
years, and how can we construct our business and diversify our revenue streams so that even though we're not doing hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube every month or whatever, millions of views, we're still doing well, and we've set ourselves up for success and leveraged that moment. And so
Yeah.
it's very much a thing that
Hmm.
creators need to think about. How can I like leverage this moment in time to become something that's longer term, you know?
Yeah. Do you think you've established a lot of loyalty in your viewers, and some of those people who were there with you through those milestones are still sticking around, even though, your video content might be changing or not as exciting in your view? I'm sure they're still enjoying your content.
I think, honestly, I think a lot of what it is, yes, for sure. Like we definitely
Mhm.
have kind of like diehard, like, OG viewers from
Yeah.
2009 when we started our channel or whatever. But interestingly, because brand partnerships are such a big part of our business, we have built up so many relationships over the years that
Yeah.
the brands keep coming back to us, regardless of how many views or what
Wow.
our social footprint looks like, because they know that they can rely on the work that we deliver. And so, because
Mhm.
like again, talking about how advertising is changing, so much of these campaigns are not about the organic distribution that we have or the influencers. Like, no, they're putting $50,000 of additional money behind the ad
Yeah.
on social media, right? So it's just like
Yeah.
it's about the content and aligning with us as much as it is about our like social footprint, So it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
really special.
I appreciate it. And yeah, Nick says here, same. Stats are down, but my profit is through the roof.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's
Love it. YouTube stats,
I
Nick
think
said,
you
yeah.
need videos about this,
I
but
know. I think we do. Let's pull up the answer to or some people are saying to Q5 in the pop chat. This is so fun, Brianne. I'm so glad we did this.
yeah, me too. We
This
might
is
have
so
to
fun.
make this a
I
thing. I
know,
don't
this is
know.
so much fun. Okay, so how are influencers changing traditional advertising culture? Let's see what some people said. Kathy Ann said, part of the process of making marketing and advertising more interactive, more based on
Yeah.
trust rather than blasting and constantly pushing the hard sell. Love that. Um,
Mhm.
Alexa says, influencers are most dominant in the trendy mediums. They have shifted
Mm.
advertising to TikTok, Instagram, and so on. What are your thoughts on like where advertising dollars are shifting, Brianne?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what I was saying before. I think it's shifting from, your traditional commercials, and, I still like out of home. I feel like that's kind of making a comeback, but I feel like it's brands are more so evaluating people versus the placement of where they're putting an ad. They're doing more research on the actual creators that they're resonating with, and the people that are already talking about their brand. I think hopefully they're adding fuel to the fire and finding their biggest brand advocates and realizing that that is going to be some of the best advertising that they can ever have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You want to read some of
Yeah.
these things from Hannah and Miriam, maybe?
Yeah, let's see. Hey, Hannah, they're becoming a necessity. If you're not using influencers, then you're falling behind your competitors. They're also competing a little with in house creatives over who gets to set the tone of the campaign and create assets. Yeah, and I think that's
Mm,
why anytime I find a brand that actually has that influencer marketing manager or has that resource in place, it does feel like they're ahead of the curve a bit.
mm-hmm.
Um, Miriam says there's definitely more integration, more influencers in traditional TV spots, copy using influencer language. This is more general internet culture, but there was a whole ad where the Burger King did a TikTok dance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's interesting
Hmm.
how that's pervaded. Like things from influencer culture are like, they're seeping
Yeah.
into real life or whatever, right?
Hmm.
For a
Yeah.
long time, I feel like, it's like, oh, do you see that thing on TikTok or that thing on like people be like, what? But like now it's just like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I
Yeah.
feel like that's definitely a thing.
You know what I noticed the other day? I was watching the Today Show and I was like, okay, this is traditional news. And every other segment was like, check out this TikTok trend that says you'll get better sleep if
Mm.
you do this. Or here's this TikTok hack about how to clean your grout. Or just like everything was, every idea was lifted from TikTok. I'm like,
That's so
we could
fascinating.
just get this on TikTok. Yeah.
I know. And you know they've got someone in the background like doing the research, like, okay, like give me the top
Yeah.
5 like TikTok trends of this morning. Like what's trending? Like I'm sure that's like some fresh college graduate or something like
So
who's
true.
been assigned to that. And there we go. There's like that's the other really interesting thing about this shift is that all of the infrastructure and new jobs and new opportunities for the next generation that didn't exist 5 years ago. Of like, you know, this is a
Yeah.
job, TikTok researcher for the Today Show or something, right? Like
Yeah.
or I also think of like infrastructure to support creators,
Yeah.
editors, thumbnail artists, researchers, script writers. I
Yes.
have gone out to Upwork and tried to find like, can I find like someone to help me like script my YouTube? I hired a screenwriter to try to like
Mhm.
have someone help me with like writing some, you know, some for my videos. So it's just like there's all this like interesting new things that are like
Yeah.
coming out of this culture, not just on the content creator side, but also the business side or the brand side of like hiring people to help them understand this stuff, you know?
Yeah, I've noticed that in job descriptions, it's like, we're looking for an extremely online person to to help us. Are you obsessed with TikTok? Like they're putting that in the job description. So at least they're recognizing it, but the shift is happening.
Yeah, no, super interesting. And let's pull in the next question here, which is, how do brands and influencers know if a partnership is a good fit? What are your thoughts on
Oh,
this one?
I think at least from the influencer side, if you feel like you have permission to be yourself, that is when you know it's a good fit. And I'll give you an example. I did a pop chat sponsorship with Alaska Airlines, and I'm like, how can I brand my graphics and make this fun, but also make it me and relevant to the chat? And being an airline, I used gifs from Britney Spears' Toxic video where she's on an airline and she's like pushing the cart and stuff. I'm like, hey, it's an airline theme. This is what I would share. This is authentic to me, and they let me have fun with it, and that's what made me feel like it was a good fit because I had permission to be myself in that way.
That's amazing. Can you tell me about if you're able to share, like, how did that sponsorship come about?
I wish I had a scientific, answer. I kid you not. I could pull up the tweet. I randomly they were my first sponsor, and I randomly tweeted. I said, "Do I know anyone that wants to sponsor Pop Chat, or are we too unrefined for your swanky corporation?" Is exactly what I said because we can get a little off the rails. My Pop Chat crew, we have fun, and yeah, we're a little silly sometimes. But the director of marketing from Alaska was following me, and she immediately just said, "We'll sponsor it. Send me information."
Wow. That's insane. I love that.
So
And
I kind of made a joke about it, and yeah.
you know what's funny actually is that I don't think a lot of creators realize this, which is that you have like influential people in your audience. Everyone does. Right? It's
Mhm.
just like you always think it's just like random everyday like people, but it's like no, like the director of marketing for Alaska Airlines is in. Like I had the direct like one of the VPs of marketing from an NBA team join my newsletter recently, and I was just like, oh, this is
Yeah.
interesting, right? Like it's like totally out of left field, but it's just like sometimes I'll just scan the emails of like people who are following up and be like, wait, that person joined my email list? Like what? Like
Yeah.
so it's just like it's so funny. I feel like until you actually like this is like one of my favorite tactics about how to get sponsored is like you literally ask me like, hey, does anyone want in my audience want to sponsor me? Like you literally just say that,
Yeah.
put on your YouTube community tab in your IG stories. Does anyone know anyone? I'm looking for some sponsors for XYZ for this event or
Mhm.
for whatever for this new piece of content series I'm doing. Do you know anyone? Or are
Yeah.
you interested in doing this? Like people don't think to do that, but it's like what better way to like get the conversation started, right?
Yeah. Start with the community you already have. They know people, or they're in the right roles, and they clearly are seeing value in what you're offering if they're following you. So yeah, definitely start there.
Yeah, and
So
the you know
yeah.
the other just as a bookend to this piece is that when I think that the best way to know how I feel that a partnership is a good fit is if the audience wins too. It's not just about the brand or not just about the follower.
Yeah.
A lot of times when brands reach out, a lot of creators will just be like, "Oh, well, do I like this? Like, is this a brand that I would want to work with?" But for me,
Yeah.
it's like, will your audience get as excited about this partnership as you will? So maybe you've been using this facial moisturizer for 2 years or whatever, and you talk about it
Mhm.
on IG stories and all the time. And then when you get sponsored by them, everyone's just like, "Oh, this is perfect. Like you've been
Yeah.
using this for 2 years, right?" And then it's like, "Oh, I'm going to try that. You know, you've been using this. I know it's so authentic, right?" Or like it's a product that like actually helps, like, you know, a great example. Let's say that you are a you help freelancers. Like what was it? Was it who was in the chat who has their new Reggie has the freelancer newsletter, right?
Yeah.
You know that, well, freelancers hate doing invoicing, right? So if FreshBooks reaches out or QuickBooks reaches out to sponsor your newsletter, like it's not just perfect for you, it's perfect for your audience, right? Because that's something that keeps them up at night, right? So I always like to look at things through that lens, because I feel like it's like very helpful. Like, oh, like, will my audience be so stoked about this because it'll actually help them, you know?
Yeah, and I always try to incorporate some type of giveaway or incentive, either a promo code or something for my audience. Like I don't want them to just pay me for the sponsorship. Like you said, I want them to win. So Alaska Airlines, they gave flight tickets that I could give to
Oh
my
my God,
audience,
are you
round trip
serious?
flights. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's
so we
so
had some people
cool.
win. Yeah, they're the best.
Dude, that's and think about it from an investment perspective on their side. Yeah, they had to pay you, but like
Yeah.
pair of tickets, like it's
Mhm.
not that expensive, right? Like,
Yeah.
but like to people, that's just like, yeah, it's like, right,
It's about as good as it gets, I think, for
right,
a prize. I don't know.
right.
I got really lucky.
Love that one. Let's pull in some responses to about the good fit thing on Pop
Ooh,
Chat.
okay, yeah, I'd love to
Let me
see
pull this in
opinions
here.
on this.
So we got here, how do brands and influencers know if partnership is a good fit? Vincenzo Lendino said, audience overlap, partnership needs to feel natural for both parties.
Yes,
Love that.
absolutely. Mhm.
Reggie says, like any freelance hire, a mix of metrics and personal relationships between the brand manager and influencer come into play. It's not all about the numbers, but they do play a factor in how successful the partnership is.
Mhm.
You want to read some
Yeah.
of these?
Yeah. Hey, Christine. She says, simple. Does each of you truly benefit from the reflected glory of the other's reputation? Is it
Ooh.
actually relevant to both of your goals? Wow. Like I said, this gets deep
Mm-hmm.
in Pop Chat.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, David, the content has to feel real. The creator should have some passion for the brand or product they're selling. Also, like any good relationship, a business partnership needs to have good communication. Amen. Nothing's worse than a brand that ghosts you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
let's see what else. Dan, hey, I think you also have to account for things you can't measure. Does it feel like the partnership is working? Do you like working with the brand and influencer? Even if the content performs well, if you don't enjoy the other's company, it won't last. Vibe should
Mm.
be a KPI,
Yeah.
Gary says. Yes. And that's one thing I try to do with Pop Chat is, I can show numbers, but I'll do like a recap to the brand after I've worked with them, and I'll actually show them screenshots of people saying positive things about the brand. And I don't think you can really measure that. I mean, it's one reply, but the depth of that reply and the brand love that is fostering, I don't think you can put a price on that.
Yeah, 100%. And let's actually dive right into the final question of our,
Yeah.
it's to an end. I'm getting
I
teary-eyed.
know. I'm having so much fun.
I know. And the final question of Pop Chat for today is, how should creators demonstrate their value to a brand? What I want you to take this one first.
Yeah, that is a perfect segue, actually, based on what I was just saying. I like to back up my metrics with actual sentiment. And I think I'm trying to, at least personally, change that conversation as best as I can, because I feel like as a creator, someone's always going to have better numbers than you. At least I've felt that. So if I can prove that, okay, my numbers and my audience might not be through the roof, but look at these amazing things people are saying and praising your brand for, and this great interaction and the sentiment and feeling and emotion behind these responses. So I at least try to incorporate that when I feel like, brands are always looking for those numbers, but can I complement those numbers with that sentiment?
Yeah, 100%. And the one thing I will say too is that one of the reasons I was so excited to do this chat with you today was that I love putting a microscope on creators who are influential in a different aspect or a different area that's not like a lifestyle influencer or not like a traditional Instagram influencer or something. Like
Yeah.
you have as evidence, like clearly as evidence by we're pulling up these Pop Chat questions, you're getting like 40, 50 responses on every single thing, which is like incredible engagement. And it's just like
Thank
you
you.
have a captivated audience of marketers of brands. And it's just like that example you shared with Alaska Airlines. It was Alaska, right? Or wait, Alaska?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Alaska Airlines. But it's just like, for example, like a B2B SaaS software company or something, like easily, oh yeah, I'm gonna go hire Brianne so I could like get in front of all these marketers. So it's just like, I love talking about this type of thing, because any of you who are in the chat here who are listening or feeling like, oh, like what I'm doing is too niche, there's no brands that would want to partner with me or whatever, like it doesn't matter what platform you're on, it doesn't matter where you are, if you have influence over a group of people, it doesn't matter if it's consumers or other businesses, whether you're a LinkedIn influencer. I had a LinkedIn influencer take my course, 60,000 followers on LinkedIn. And she has, she does data science. That's her thing. And so she has a podcast, and, all these tech conferences are trying to sponsor her to so it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter where you are. If you have influence, you can monetize it.
Yeah. And it goes back to that authenticity. I mean, if you're a data science geek and that's what you love, you're going to find your people if you share that. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's pop culture and marketing, I didn't think I would find that overlap and synergy with other people, but it turns out that it's resonating. So like you said, no matter what your niche is, you'll find them eventually.
Yeah. Love to hear it. Let's pull in some answers from question number 7.
Yes.
Heather said, who is your audience? Don't underestimate who a brand would love to connect with. STEM enthusiasts, high school teachers, book lovers, professionals in a certain industry, like we were just talking about. There's a brand fit out there for every audience.
So true.
Rachel says, when showing how they can add value, creators should remember why fans follow them and add it to their materials. Comments and DMs are a great place to start. Like you were saying, Brianne, my followers love that I offer evidence that you've pulled from your own followers, and that's what I can do. You want to
some great advice in here. Let's see.
Exactly. What I love about, just quick commentary, these are like really detailed answers. These are not just like 3 words. It's like people are really thinking about this stuff.
Oh no. And on a Friday afternoon, I could not be more grateful. I think people they use it to kind of decompress from the week and just feel like they're still doing work, but it's I don't know, it's fun. So let's see. Hannah says, showcase in your portfolio the brief you were given and what you were able to create with it. It shows how collaborative as well as how original you are. Also highlight how engaged your audience is, not just how big it is. Yeah. Have to have the engagement. Size truly doesn't matter if there's no engagement. Let's look at Azad, because speaking of SaaS brands, his company that he works for, Attentive, which is an SMS marketing platform, they were, I think, my second sponsor. So,
there we go. Of that. Look at this.
Yeah, and Azad, I mean, he's one of my early pop chatters too. I've met him in person a bunch of times, and he always drops wisdom in the chat. He says, learn how to make a business case. Brands need data and numbers before they can open the checkbook. Have a 1-pager ready of your past successes, details about your audience demo, how many conversions or sales has your past partnerships driven, etc.
Love that.
Check, check.
100%. And that this is actually a really critical point to think about, shifting from doing the song and dance about how many followers you have and your impressions and all this stuff to no, I did this very specific thing for this one brand, whether it's conversions or drive attendees to a conference or whatever. Hey, you're trying to do that same thing. Look at this case study, right? Rather than trying to convince them of all these other things. It's that is the single most compelling thing that you can do. I actually was on a live stream yesterday talking about this, is that if you have a media kit as a creator, I don't care where your thing is that page 1 is not about me. Page 1 is testimonials. Page 1 is case studies, because no one cares about you. Sorry. I'm just going to say it. Page 2 or page 10 can be about you. That's the appendix.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually took that advice from you recently.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yes. So you said, show brands what your audience is already saying about them. So I actually did a pitch to Grammarly, and I found all these tweets where my audience was praising Grammarly and how it makes their job so much easier. And I made that the second page right after my little cover page. I said, before you jump into this, look, my audience already loves your brand. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. I haven't heard back yet, but
yes. Okay. Well, here's another, we're doing pitch strategy now, but yeah. So you can't give up, even if they're ghosting you.
I know.
That doesn't mean you suck.
relentless. I'll find them. You know,
Yes.
I'm like the stage 5 clinger. I will.
Yeah. Well,
Little
you
Wedding
know,
Crashes quote for you
well, you
there,
know
but
what? Most creators have a hard time with that. They think if they don't hear back on the first email that the brand hates them, and they're like, "Oh, like,
oh,
you know what I mean?" So you can
no,
get
you've gotta
really
be a
like
squeaky
deep
wheel.
in deep in your head. I get it. I've
Yeah.
done whole live streams about this, about confidence, getting ghosted, and all that stuff. Because yeah, it's
Mhm.
really tough. Like because
Yeah.
in the absence of any feedback, people just turn inward. It's like, wow, I suck. My pitch sucked,
Yeah.
and sometimes the pitch does suck. I must be honest, but and that's why I try. That's why I try and teach people how to not suck. But you
Yeah.
know, like most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. I actually have a video on my channel called "Why Brands Ghost Creators," like 10 reasons, and
Oh.
all 10 of them are basically not about you. It has nothing to do with you. And
Mhm.
so it's just like very important to like keep perspective like that and just keep going at it. And man, this was
Yeah.
such a fun
This
conversation,
was
Brianne.
so fun. Yeah.
So
I would love
fun.
to do this again
And
sometime.
look at it, it's on the hour, like right on the
On the
hour. Like
hour.
we couldn't have planned this any more perfectly.
No, we really juggled this. I was a little concerned, but we juggled it perfectly. We've got great engagement both in the comments here, but also on the chat. Lindsay
Yeah.
says, just jumping on to watch. Hey, Lindsay, but can't wait to rewatch. Yes, there were some gems, Lindsay. So please, I hope you'll
Yes,
rewatch
Lindsay.
it.
I've done a live stream with Lindsay before.
Oh,
Yes, he works in innovation at Maverick, a brand deal platform.
yeah.
So so yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. And by the way, if you are not following Brianne, I'm going to pull up her
Oh,
profile
thank
so you can
you.
see it, and tell us a little bit about what they can expect from you aside from these types of gems that we dropped today.
Yeah, so I like to educate marketers about marketing, but in a way that's through the lens of pop culture. So if you're always looking to up your game and to learn, but you're kind of, a little bored of stuffy examples and maybe only learning from what corporations are doing, I try to share or at least have conversations about what your favorite artists and musicians and superheroes and Marvel movies, what all those cool things are doing and how they're being promoted. So yeah, I've got you can see in the blog, want to get hired. T-Pain says you need a personal website. That's all about how why you still need a personal website in this day and age, and just everything is tied back to a sometimes silly pop culture reference. So we have a lot of fun.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
hopping on today. This was so much fun. So please follow Brianne, and
Thank you.
thank you all so much for tuning in every week. You guys are the OGs. Everyone, you tune in every single week. And again, we will see you next week. My name is Justin Moore, founder of Creator Wizard, and we will see you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Peace.
Thanks, everyone.